Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you data binding, how you can implement data binding. So let's start with creating a project. So I'm giving it a name as a data binding demo. I'm going to use the Kotlin as a language as usual. So I have created a project. Let's start with adding the dependencies. The motive of this video is to show the data binding with the Recyclerview. Also, I'm going to make the API call with the GitHub API and download the data and show it on the Recyclerview. Also, I'm going to show the glide library, how we can implement glide library with the data binding. So let's add all these dependencies of ViewModel, Recyclerview and glide and retrofit. So let's add all these dependencies and then we'll move forward on it. Now click on apply and OK. So let it be sync now, and let's double check all the dependencies in our build.gradle. We can see Recyclerview, retrofit and ViewModel, everything is there. So let's align our Gradle file. That's done. Now we need to make some modification in our Gradle file. So let's add this plugin. This is needed for data binding as well as the Recyclerview. We need to enable the data binding in our project, so we need to add the data binding enable block here. So when you are working on data binding, then make sure to update your Gradle file and enable the data binding from here. Make it true. Since you are using ViewModel, so we need to make these changes as well in our Gradle file. So follow the steps. So simply setting the Java version 108. That's all we need in our Gradle file. Let's sync it and move forward. Okay, our sync is done. Let's go to create our layout file. So I'm going to add a Recyclerview in the layout file, simple. Along with, I'm going to add a progress bar so that once we are making the API call, we can see a spinner in the center of the screen. Now we need to add some classes, Kotlin classes. So these are for the retrofit. which we are going to use to make the API call. This is one more. I have already showed how you use the retrofit in my other videos as well, so I'm going to use the same way. This is the API which is like going to show download the data from the GitHub based on the keyword. So I'm going to use the same API. Let's add the companion object in the retro instance class. So here we are going to create an instance of retrofit. So let's create a function. Here is the URL which we are going to use in our project. So this portion of the URL we are going to use in this retro service. Only we need the base URL in retro instance class. Create a separate function which is going to return the instance of retrofit. In the retro service class, we are going to create another function. It is going to take a query parameter. So this portion of this URL. It is from the user input, but I'm going to go do the hard coding from the calling function. And this is the simple get API, and we need to pass a parameter, URL parameter inside this. Simple. And this is going to return a list. Let's create a data class. So here we need to create a data class which is going to hold the list of our data. Give it a name. So it's a simple data class in Kotlin. And we have items, array of items. So we are gonna keep it same name. Array list of. We need to create another data class now, which is going to hold some parameters like name, description. So let's create another data class. And use the same name of the variables which is in the API. So I have name, second parameter is the description, same as string type, and third parameter is the created at, same as string. And we need one more parameter, so that is under the owner object. So we need this URL, the thumbnail URL. So let it be with the owner, and we need to create a separate data class. So let's create one more class as a name owner, which is going to hold one more parameter, dot URL string type. Okay, so our data class is ready, and this is going to return this recycler list. That's all for this class. Now, since we are going to make the API call, so we need to add the internet permission in our manifest. So let's add this. Now let's create a view model. So I'm giving the same name as the main activity view model. Need to extend it with the view model class. Simply import it. Now we need a init block. This is same as the primary constructor in Java. So first of all, we need a live data so that we can have an observer in our main activity, and that can read the data from there. This is going to hold our list. We need to initialize it. And now let's create a separate function which is going to return this live data. Another function we need to make, which is going to make the API call with the retrofit. So let's create that separate function. So this is going to take the query from the user, but I'm going to go the hard code on the main activity. So currently, let's create an instance of retrofit. It's straightforward. I have shown you already in my previous videos as well. Now let's create a separate class for our adapter. So just simply give a name. So I gave just the name Recyclerview adapter, and now we need to implement this adapter. This is also the straightforward. We just simply need to implement these three functions. And now we need to implement these functions. First of all, we need to see what kind of a data it's going to hold. So it's going to hold an array list of uh, recycler list. It's a recycler data actually. And we need to create a function to update this list. So first of all, this get count is going to return the size of this list. So let's return it. Now create a function to update this list. Now we need to inflate our layout. Now we need to create another layout to display the image view and the text view as the API data on a recycler view. So let's create a layout for our adapter. Give it a name. This is very important portion of the data binding. So here we need to add a layout tag on the top of our layout. So this is actually the data binding portion I'm going to implement now. So inside the layout, we need to add the data tag. Inside the data tag, we need to create a variable and the name. Give it a name and give it a name for your class. So I'm giving it as a recycler data. And here should be the whole package of our class. The package name and the class name. So now I'm going to add a image view on the left and then three text view on the right vertically. So I'm adding it quickly. I'm simply creating the layout. Once that is done, then I'll show how we can use this above recycler data object in to set the data here only instead of doing it in the adapter. Now here we are going to set the data directly. So in the single quotes, @ brackets and the name. So here we are setting the name to this text view and the description to this text view. This is the beauty of data binding. So instead of doing everything in our Kotlin classes or Java classes, we are just setting up the data in layout itself. And this is going to be the null check. If there is no description, then it is going to show no description available. Similarly for the created date. Showing a downloaded image on an image view is little tricky, but I'm going to show you that as well. So follow the steps. So I'm just creating a load image. So remember this name load image. You can give any name which we are going to use uh, in our adapter. And here we are going to pass the owner after URL. Owner the URL. That's it for our adapter layout classes. Now let's go and implement our adapter. So make sure to rebuild your project, because whatever code we have wrote in our layout file, it's going to generate some classes. So it is necessary to rebuild. So as you see, Recyclerview row binding, this is the auto-generated class. You don't need to manually create it. And this is almost similar name, which is the layout file name. So we gave the Recyclerview row. It's created the class name with the same name, Recyclerview row, but it added the binding at the end. Now we need to create a view holder class. We need to create a function bind, which is going to call from on bind view holder and going to take an input as the recycler data. So here we used to inflate our layout, all the layouts, and then we were setting the text or the data here. So we don't need to do that. So we just simply need to call binding dot recycler data, which is the object we created inside the layout, and just set the data, and then we just call execute data binding. That's it. So this is done for the text view, but our image view is going to get the URL and download the image from using the glide library. So let's write the code for that. So this portion should go in the companion object. In Java, it should go inside the static function. And use the same name as I show you and pass it inside this. You can use any name instead of load image. And now just simple function. Give it an ID of the image view. And a URL. Here we need to write the code for our glide. As I have already shown you, so it's the same steps. Load URL, set the placeholder image, and the circle crop, placeholder image, then error image, in my case I am setting the same image. I don't have any extra image, so we can use it. And then fallback also, I'm going to use the same. You can use of your choice. And that's it for our glide code as well. So this is automatically going to download the image and automatically going to set it to the thumbnail. That's it. Now let's go to our main activity and write the code here. So first of all, I'm writing a function which is just to call the API inside our view model. So let's implement the view model here and set the observer. Here when we get the API response, and then we need to update our adapter in case response is success, or if it is failure or we don't get the response, then I'm going to show a toast message to the user. It's a simple message to know the user, like that I did not get any response from the API. And now we need to update our adapter. So we need to initialize our adapter in our view model. So let's go to view model and initialize our adapter, which we have already created. We'll simply initialize it in the init block. Now we need to create a function which is going to return our view model. Our adapter. Now one more function we need to create to update the API data to the adapter. So the list we need to update to the adapter. So we'll create a separate function for this. So this is going to be the array list, which we are going to get from the activity. So I'm setting that data to the adapter and now calling notify dataset change to update the list. Let's go back to our activity and update our adapter with the data which we received in the API response. And now we need to call that function of view model, which is going to make the API call. That's it. And we need to pass a parameter. I'm passing it as a query parameter New York. And I'm making this function which is going to return the view model object, which we need in the data binding. So I'll show you now. Now let's call this function from the onCreate directly itself. Now let's create a separate function for data binding. Here I'm going to write the code to bind this activity. First of all, we need to initialize our Recyclerview to set its layout manager. I think I did not give the ID. Let me give an ID to our Recyclerview and the progress bar as well. Now we are going to use this ID in our activity. And now we are going to use the apply block. Here we are going to set the layout manager. Also, I'm going to add a separator in each row. So let me write that code as well. Now go to our main activity layout. Here we need to do the same thing which we did for the row. So now we need to create a layout, and inside this we need to create a data object. Data tag. Inside it we need to create variable, and we are going to do the same thing. So we are doing it for the view model. So we need to copy the view model package, and we need to pass full package name along with the class name and the view model class name. Now we need to set our adapter to our recycler view. So everything we are going to do in the layout file itself. We don't need to do it as a programmatically in our classes, Kotlin classes. ViewModel dot. I think we already have the get adapter function. Let me double check. Do we have or not? So yeah, we already have that function. So let's copy it. And go to a layout file and just simply call it. There we go. So that's it for this layout file. Now let's go back to our main activity. And here we need to bind our view model with our layout. For that we are going to use databinding util dot set content view. And we need to pass our layout file name. As I mentioned, this class is going to create by itself. So if you don't see that class, then just simply rebuild your project, and it can take the same name which is based on the layout file name. So in my case, it's activity underscore main.xml. So that's why it's created activity main binding. And we need to pass the view model. So with whatever name we gave in the view model, we need to use the same name, br.viewModel, and we need to pass our actual view model. So we need to make this function as a parametric. Now we need to pass this view model, and we need to set that view model. That's it. If you see some error, then you can just simply build your project or clean and rebuild. There you go. So after build, it's all the error has gone. Now just hide the progress bar once we receive the response. So I'm going to just set its visibility here. So now let's review everything. We have retro instance and the data class is on place. Our adapter is view model is all set, and our adapter is also all set. Layouts looks perfect. And just set this image width and height to 100 so that it doesn't go out of the row. Let's run and see. There you go. So we can see the expected result with the data binding. I'm seeing some UI issue, so let me put some margin in the textures. There you go. So now it looks perfect. So guys, that's all for today's video with the data binding. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Thank you so much for watching this.